Welcome to the Women of Distance podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Kramer. These are the stories of motivated women chasing big dreams in the distance running world. You'll hear from women who are crushing it on the trails, the track, and the road. These are not just the stories of women's results at the top of the sport, but the full story of how she got there, the challenges, failures, successes, lessons, and life between the miles. Women of Distance is proudly supported by Open Fuel, responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check out their products and their mission at openfuel.co and use code WOD for 20% off your first and every order. You can also visit the Women of Distance Substack to read more behind the scenes happenings, including how I'm using Open Fuel in my own training. I want to thank SOAR Running for their support of the Women of Distance podcast. SOAR Running design and produce running apparel that does justice to the commitment and passion of runners globally. Their collections are designed specifically for running, high-performance racing, and also off-road adventure and endurance. Check them out at soarrunning.com. That's SOAR running.com. Women of Distance is also supported by our good friends and fellow trail runners at Summit Roasters. Roasted fresh in my hometown, you can support the podcast by visiting summit-roasters.com and using code WOD15 for 15% off every order. You can find all of these links and codes in the show notes and know that we really appreciate you supporting those supporting us. Without further ado, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for listening. Okay, I am hanging out with Sarah Morrison today. Sarah, welcome to Women of Distance. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really excited to have you. Quick introduction for those who are hearing your name for the first time. You are the 100K road national champion. Just by the time this podcast comes out, it'll be about 2 weeks post-race. You were the champion at the Bad City Ultras 100K, which was also the USATF Road National Championship. Earned your spot onto the 2026 World Championship team. And this is your first podcast. I'm really privileged that we get to do this together. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
I am really eager to get to know you a little bit better and for our audience to get to know you a little bit better. Obviously, you are quite an accomplished runner at this point, but let's go back in history to where you started, where athletics first entered your life. We actually grew up like not that far apart, maybe like 30 minutes away from each other. So I'm very interested in your how she got here story.
Sure.
Where did athletics first enter your life?
I think I played a lot of sports growing up. Like my mom threw my brother and I into anything and everything. So I think like the biggest probably sport was soccer for me. And I started playing, school soccer in kindergarten. We just run around like a pack of bees and chasing the ball. But then I got into like travel soccer and ultimately thought that that's like where I was going to go play college soccer somewhere. But I grew up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and they have a pretty solid history with cross country and track and field. And I knew some of the girls on the team when I was coming into my freshman year of high school. And our soccer season was in the spring and cross country then was fall. So I was planning on running cross country and it just kind of clicked. I have always loved running. Even with soccer, I played midfield and was always up and down the field. But we had a really special group of girls on the cross country team my freshman year of high school. And our coach, Chris Monheim, was very new to the team at that point as well. And we had one of my good friends, her name's Kylie Schuler, now Van Horn. She was a senior and kind of just led us to a pretty amazing season. We ended up actually second in the state as a team. And it kind of just went from there. And she and Coach Monheim are kind of big influences into kind of transitioning from soccer to running full time. And so then I eventually ran track over soccer and kind of the rest is history.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that adjustment. That's interesting that once you tried it and discovered it, you kind of went all in on it. What
Yeah.
It's different than soccer. Obviously, it's team sports. Or not a different type of team sport. It's continuous in a way soccer isn't. Talk about like what you were learning about the sport and how it applied to you, like what made it such a natural fit in addition to the team and the community.
Yeah, I think, lots of learning. My freshman year, it was like up and down. Um, it was one of my good friends as well. She and I were both freshmen coming in and running for the team, and we would go flip-flop back and forth. It was like every race, she was ahead of me, and then I was ahead of her, and it was like, "What do you eat? And when do you go to the bathroom? And what shoes do you wear? And, like, what do you train in? And what sports bras do you have?" And so it was like this huge learning curve of things that I was never introduced to before, um and that's where, like, Kylie was such a huge impact, I think, because she was this guiding person and such a kind human and taught us basically everything we needed to know, and, it was just running for me has always been fun and enjoyable, and, I'm also a competitive person, so when it clicked, it was like, this could be something really special. And my coach as well, he was, I think, knew that that could be something like long term for me that could be pretty important. And it took a while. So, like, I actually didn't run track until sophomore year of high school. So I didn't run freshman year. I played soccer, and then I still played with my club team through my junior year. So I was still playing soccer, which was nice. And I think ultimately very helpful. But then running just kind of became more successful, and it just kind of opened up a lot of doors and introduced me to a lot of people. And yeah, so it was not a difficult transition, but just a prolonged one, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you did transition to track, talk a little bit about what events and skill sets you feel like were your strengths, and did you prefer track or cross country if you had to choose?
So track, it's kind of funny because track, I was like, had a lot of leg speed. And so I like ran open 400s and the 800 and the mile. The mile was definitely the 1600 was my favorite, and probably what I was best at. But yeah, even my high school coach now will joke like he doesn't really understand, or not understand, but he finds it funny that I'm now doing all of these ultra marathons because it was like pulling teeth to try to run like the 3200. Um, but but I loved cross country so much, like the team aspect of it. And we had such a fun team and a really close-knit team. We traveled so well together, and it was like, I don't know, there's something about like when you get back to school and it's like still kind of warm, but you've trained all summer and you get into the fall and like running on the cross country courses, and it's just so much fun, and it's, I don't know, there's just that feel to it that is so enjoyable that it's painful. The races aren't always like easy, but yeah, I did love cross country for the team aspect of it for sure. The track stuff was just fun because it was short and fast and sweet.
I think a lot of people have those kind of memories about cross country or even maybe just
Yeah.
about fall sports in general. Like the
Yeah.
nostalgia is the smell and the
Yeah.
weather and the
Yeah.
like it really brings you back.
Yeah.
Um, Talk about along this way through high school sport. Was there a point that you realized that not only were you enjoying this and the learning aspect of it and applying yourself to it, but that you actually had a talent and a gift for this?
Yeah, so my sophomore year of high school, that track season was my first one, and I actually ended up winning the 1600 at states. And I
Wow.
broke 5 minutes for the mile, which was like that was the goal of the
Yeah.
season. And back then it was like not that common. So
Right.
now it doesn't make a difference. But yeah, it was that's kind of the like was the moment that it was like, okay, this could be something really special. And then I went on and like had a really great cross country season my junior year of high school. And then that indoor season for indoor track, I won the indoor state meet and ran almost broke like the state record. And um that was like the moment where it was like, okay, that's one of like the top times in the country. Like you could definitely, go somewhere big and do something big in college. And so that was kind of definitely the transition fully kind of away from soccer, where that was the end of the travel team, and definitely focusing more on running full time. I ended up actually getting mono then that spring, so
Mm.
it wasn't great for that, but then you rebound and move on. So yeah.
Was there anyone at that time that was telling you that you should go all in on this? That obviously you had results on paper that were giving you belief and giving you confidence. Was there anybody else in your life who was sort of pushing that or supporting that at the same time?
Yeah. I mean, my family definitely, like my mom is my biggest fan for sure. And she would have supported me in whatever decision I wanted to do. But then my high school coach, it was kind of funny. Like my high school coach for cross country and track, and then the high school soccer coach, like both of them, they almost had like a meeting, and it was like who could present like the best options and like who a little bit of a debate. But my high school coach, Chris Monheim, he was huge in he knew exactly like how to train me and how to like get me to run my best and what buttons to push and when to light the fire or cool it down. And he was a huge advocate for me, and so helpful even like when it came time to start looking at colleges, like which ones to really look at, or like what to ask the coaches and what to look for in the team. And that he was a huge role in where I am today for sure.
That's significant. Talk a little bit about that process of the transition from high school to college. What did the process of searching for a school and a program look like for you?
It's tough. Like it was stressful for sure. I did a lot of unofficial visits. So the summer before my senior year started, we road tripped. My mom, my brother, and I. We went to Wake Forest and Tennessee and UVA, and I had been at UNC before to see the school, and Duke, and then Villanova. So those were like schools that I was, really interested, or at least partially interested. And so we did some unofficial visits, and a couple of them I got to chat with the coaches or see the facilities. But then officially visiting, like I took a weekend and officially visited Duke and Villanova. And it was really like, I don't know, the gut feeling at Villanova was like, this is a good place to be. And like you walk down the hallway of the athletic buildings, and it's just pen relays wheel after pen relays wheel after pen relays wheel. And like being from Pennsylvania, that was a big deal. And then the team and the coaching, like everything would just felt like kind of like home. Like it felt comfortable. It felt relaxed. It didn't feel high pressure, high strung. And so it made that decision pretty easy, which was awesome.
What sort of academic path did you pursue at the same time?
So I was always interested in medicine, sciences, math. And so Villanova at the time didn't have a pre-med program, but they had other science degrees that you could kind of pick and choose, whatever electives you needed. And so I kind of turned it into a pre-med major, with just a little bit extra math. So yeah.
So, talk about that transition then, actually going to college, coming from being sort of the big dog in your high school and in Pennsylvania as a whole, even, and then coming to Villanova where you're surrounded by a lot of other big dogs. And it's a different type of program, a different type of training. What was that transition like for you from high school to college?
It was hard. It was definitely not easy, and I had definitely bumps in the road. Not like injuries, but like a little bit like of anemia here, and like just the overall change of mileage and harder workouts, and you're working out with these girls who are like incredible and all Americans, and it's kind of, it's daunting mentally as well. It's not just the physical strain, it's mental too. And I think part of me, I was lucky where, again, I just got plopped into this group of girls who are incredible people, and we are all still mostly very, very close and really great
It's amazing.
friends. And yeah, we our recruiting class was huge. Like we I think came in with 10 to 12 girls freshman year, and so we almost
Wow.
doubled the team size. And so a bit of it was a little hard to handle, I think, for like the overall team, for all of us coming in. But yeah, I think like even though I didn't have like the best fall freshman year, um, I had a much better spring. Like I think once I was just a little bit more acclimated, and but it was still fun. Like we still had a lot of fun, and um, trips were great. And it wasn't again like always the best for me with the actual running component, but it was a good experience. And I think like toughing it out and still being a part of the team and getting the racing in and digging in for the training was helpful for, building just for the next years.
Sounds like having that unique situation of so many freshmen all together, a large team of freshmen being able to go through those life adjustments together at the same
Yeah.
time as training and performance adjustments.
Yes.
Maybe talk a little bit about that and what kind of things you were learning about yourself along the way as you're also on your own for the first time and going through this process at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great, like having been in sport for so long, like, time management and making sure you're getting enough sleep and making sure you're eating appropriately. And like those things that are so huge for running in particular for training, but then they kind of help you build just general, life skills. I think the time management thing is huge, like making sure that, you're sleeping well, but then getting all your work done at an appropriate hour and utilizing your time appropriately. We had practice smack dab in the middle of the day, which was not the most convenient, but so it was like, if you had a break for an hour in the morning in between classes, like you had to make sure that you were sitting down and getting whatever done, studying, work, and fueling and making the most out of the time that you had. And then balancing that with still trying to have, a social life and having fun and things like that. But yeah, it's no, it's an adjustment period. I think having running was helpful in kind of balancing the rest of it.
Hey, folks, quick interruption to make sure to say thank you to Open Fuel for supporting the Women of Distance podcast. Open Fuel is responsible sports nutrition to fuel your adventure. Check them out at openfuel.co. Right now, I'm loving their Ultra Fuel drink mix with 60 grams of carbs and 500 milligrams of sodium all in one serving. Soon, they'll also be adding a gel mix to their product lineup. Again, check them out at openfuel.co and use code WOD to get 20% off your order every time and support the podcast at the same time. Find the link and the code in the show notes. Sounds like maybe that is a sort of a process and a routine that is going to carry forward for you. We might come back and revisit that a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to skate over your college career, but maybe just like a few highlights. What were your strongest events
Yeah.
in college?
I ran the steeplechase. That was definitely the best thing for me. So I kind of joke like my freshman year, I wasn't fast enough to run the 800 or the 15 at like a high level. And then I also wasn't strong enough to run like the 5K. And so I got thrown into steeple practice one afternoon and it again just kind of clicked. We did the water barrier jump and it was fun. And I think I'm more of an athletic person rather than just like a true runner. And so having like the barriers and the water pit, I loved it. And it just made it more exciting and more fun. So that was great. And then that year, actually, like the first race I did, I qualified for Big East, and then at Big East, I qualified for regionals. And then regionals, it just kind of stopped at that point. But then the following year, I ended up winning Big East, and then I set the school record and qualified for regionals and the nationals. I got to go to Arkansas for NCAA's, which was a huge experience. It wasn't a great race, but it was a really fun opportunity and just travel in general at a college level is incredible and fun and unique and but then I think like cross country definitely wasn't like my strongest suit, but we had a lot of fun. And again, kind of circling back to that team aspect, the girls that I got recruited with. We were in it all together, all 4 years, and we ended up national champions my senior year. It was so fun, so exciting, and yeah, definitely, something you remember forever and you take with you and carry it through the rest of your life.
This is a trend that I have heard again and again, the steeplechase, that if you have the raw athleticism to be good at the steeplechase, that does tend to translate well to trail and ultra running later in life.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of themes here from college that we'll circle back to later in
Yeah.
life. Um, Talk about coming to the end of your college career. What kind of post collegiate opportunities or interests did you have, both in terms of running, but also in terms of your academic and professional pursuits?
Yeah, mine really kind of started to transition more to like personal professional. I had a bit of like a burnout by the end of college where I just needed a break. And so I took a lot of time off. I took like 6 to 9 months off almost, I think. But then I was at the same time taking my MCATs, and then I ended up working after college as like a medical assistant, and took some time off to figure out what I really wanted to do professionally. And then I got back into running a little bit during that time period, and I ran a couple half marathons. And then just was running mostly for fun and just for the social aspect, but also just for stress relief and staying in shape and needing something to do to burn off steam. But yeah, and then I ended up going back to school and went to podiatry school. So then that kind of took me a different direction. Yeah.
Talk about that transition maybe a little bit in recognizing that you needed time off and what it was like for you, even from just a mental perspective, to take running as a hobby and a fitness sport as opposed to a competitive driven training regimen that you had had for most of your life before that.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, it just was not fun anymore, and I think that
Yeah.
it had been for so long. To not enjoy it was, a little heartbreaking almost, like, it was such a big part of who you are, and, um, the downside, I think, sometimes to college running is, like, it becomes your identity, and there definitely was a bit of that, and so when it doesn't when you aren't as successful, when things aren't clicking, when it's not as fun and enjoyable, then it's a little depressing almost to get down in the dumps. And like, I think it registered to me that it wasn't something that I needed or wanted and needed a reset. So I just kind of stopped cold turkey and took a bunch of time off, and ultimately was probably the best thing that I could have done. And then eventually it was like one of those things where it came around where I was like, I need to start running again. So,
Just
and then it
naturally
became
made its way
the
back
fun.
in.
Yeah, it became the stress relief again. It became fun. It became recreational. And I had a couple people in the area that like were from college. I actually like there were times where I would go run with my old college coach, and like still lived around Villanova area, so got to do that, and it became more fun again. And yeah, so.
What does the process of podiatry school look like for those who are not familiar? And also, how then did running fit into the process of going through that program?
Yeah. So podiatry school is 4 years. And then you do a 3-year surgical residency. And then you are able to go out and private practice or wherever practice in the hospitals. Um, I think like I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to get into with medicine. And so I found this job as a medical assistant in a podiatry office right down the road from Villanova in Bryn Mawr. And um, the practice was busy. They were great doctors, and the office manager, it was amazing. And I got to see so much, and it just kind of clicked, like the biomechanics of the foot and ankle and running and sports and those things. It makes sense to me, obviously. And
Hmm.
so I was able to kind of connect the pieces and then go back to school and learn more officially about it. But even like now, it just is something that I really enjoyed, like the biomechanics and helping people run or fix injuries or run injury free, orthotics, those kind of things. Like it just is what I enjoy about the profession for sure. So it's fun to have both that go hand in hand.
How did you use running as a tool in a different way while you were in school to whether it was just stress management and nothing else, or how did that fit into that program in that time?
Yeah, so I went to school at Temple, so I was in Philadelphia. So I moved into the city for that, and Philadelphia is pretty cool where there's a huge running community and there's so many running groups. And some of them are really competitive and some of them are just fun. And so I got connected with a group in the city right before I started school. And there are people that I still run with and I'm still very close with. But it was mostly a stress reliever. I really didn't do much racing. I think I ran like a couple half marathons, maybe a marathon. I don't remember if I actually ran a marathon or not. Anyway, so it was mostly all stress relief and social, and just fun. I would do workouts, but nothing crazy, and most of it was just like hopping in with friends who were doing their own workouts and just that kind of thing. And so I needed it for that part of my life to not be stressful. So I really didn't dive into any serious racing.
Sounds like the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
When did you begin to dive into serious racing? When did that itch to really train and compete begin to come back in?
Yeah, I think so. I was a little limited. So when I started residency, like first year of residency was like the hardest year of my life. So that I didn't really run much because of that. So
Sure.
my third year of residency, I guess, no, towards the end of my residency is when I started to like have a little more time. And again, like that time management part was also very key there. But um, decided to run a marathon and try to run it fast. And I did my first one just for fun in Philly, and ran like just over 3 hours or something. So it was fun and it was enjoyable. And running through Philly obviously was great. And then
Which one was it? Philly has a couple good marathons.
the one in November. So I
Okay,
think
the
the
Philadelphia
Philadelphia
Marathon,
Marathon.
not the rock
Yeah.
and roller. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
no, yeah. So I did that one, and then I think I did it a second time, and I broke free, and that was the end of my residency. And then after that, like when I started practice, well, COVID came in and kind of shook things up a little bit. But after that was when I just really wanted to try to run like a fast full, and I guess it was right when I started practice, had more free time and was able to get some like really great workouts in and stuff, and ran with some of the friends from my running group, and we went down to Houston, and so I got to run at Houston and ran. I think it was like right around 250. I think.
So this is
So
in your third marathon at this point?
I think so. Or
Okay.
fourth. Might have been my fourth one. But anyway, so yeah, so that was kind of I think right around 2021 was when I started to get a little more serious about it.
You've
So
come a long way from the mile, the 1500, the steeplechase.
yeah,
Talk about what you enjoyed about the marathon. That's very different than what you were doing. What were you enjoying about it?
very different. I think I started to really like the long runs. Surprise. So it was less like I had no idea. So I've never had a coach for this stuff, and like I just have made it up based on a little bit mostly of like what I can do with my work schedule, but was making up workouts and like the long runs though I just loved. Just going out and running for, a couple hours and stressing the body and um learning the fueling. That was definitely a transition, and didn't go so smoothly for the first couple, but yeah, I think um it's like you push yourself so hard, but it's like the slow process, so like it doesn't hurt the whole way.
Right.
um
You ease into the
yeah,
hurt.
and yeah, the slow burn. But then I don't know, like just I guess it's just the being out and about and like going places and seeing new things, and the courses are fun. Most of them are fun. The ones I've done are really fun, and the environment about it is cool. Um yeah, I don't know, it just kind of clicked again.
So maybe this is an obvious answer then, but my next question is where did the idea for Ultra get planted in your mind?
Sure. So I had I run a couple marathons, and then I ran grandma's in 2023. And it was the first marathon that I had done that I didn't PR. And it just like didn't feel great. And I think like had started to do some training a little differently. I was doing some like really long threshold workouts with some girls in the Philadelphia area. And I think that is something too that you just have to keep doing to get it to click and to work. Um, but then after that summer, I had like a couple things like with my personal life that like my dad passed away, and I had lost one of my dogs, and like just a couple of things that were really hard to go through. And I kind of needed another time where I didn't want running to be stressful, and I couldn't have it to be stressful because I had all of these other stresses.
Mhm.
And I kind of then stumbled upon JFK, or not stumbled upon, but had thoughts about running JFK. Um, I had run a 50K prior to all of that, but it was just like a really like for fun kind of thing, and like didn't train for it or anything. It was just around Philly. So JFK was like something that I could do that I didn't need to have this like stress of a time goal, and I didn't have to do like workouts that I thought I should be doing, like in the marathon training builds. And it's something that new to explore that would be hopefully more fun again. And then I knew Mike Spindler, the race director, so it made it a little easier to like reach out and ask like about an entry and like that kind of thing. So I was a little familiar with the course, and it just was a little bit easy to just get into and not have to stress about the logistics and all the other stuff.
Yeah, it seems like that race in particular really suits your strengths as you've described them to this point. Talk about how your training did change and what your preparation looked like for that race.
So I did a few double weekend long runs. So um, I again kind of just made some stuff up and was hoping for the best, but I did a few weekends of like 20-30 double long runs, and nothing hard, like just doing the mileage and the distance. And I had a friend who I'm very close with now. She lives in Philly, and she decided to hop into her own ultra for the first time. She ran a 50K. And so we ended up even just doing some of the long runs together. That was new for both of us, the long stuff. And then, yeah, and then again, like during the week, it was kind of just like what I can get in time wise with my job, and um, started to get up a little earlier and add a little mileage here and a little mileage there. And, but yeah, I did no workouts, just kind of the mileage, and was hoping just to finish and feel good about it. And, yeah, see how it went.
This was another place our paths crossed without realizing it. We
Yeah.
both ran that race that year, and I'm sure probably spent some amount of passage or time together in there somewhere. Talk about the race itself and what the experience was like for you. I think most people are familiar that it does start with technical trail, and then the majority of the race is really quite runnable. How did the race go for you, and what did you enjoy? What did you learn along the way?
Yeah, I mean, that Appalachian Trail segment is not an easy one. The huge climb to get to it is not easy, but um, it's fall in Maryland, or close to where I grew up, and that time of year can be really pretty, or it can be really rough weather-wise. But it was a pretty good weather day and dry, and the trails, they're tough, but I enjoy them. And I don't think I didn't fall that year. I fell this past time, but but yeah, it was fun to like just be in a new environment and a new setting. And ultimately the nutrition components were like kind of the newer thing for me. And I didn't really have much difficulty, which was great. Like I was trying like gels or solids, and a lot of like drink mixes, and um knock on wood, and luckily my stomach generally holds up pretty well. But so that was like almost a distraction through some of it. But then my high school coach and like the team, they come out and they do like a volunteer stop halfway. So I got to see them, which was fun. And yeah, and then, I know having a couple of the Cumberland Valley Athletic Club, I guess founders, even you could probably call them, like Mike Spindler, and then having them around, it just kind of felt like kind of home. My grandmother was at the finish line, like she got to see me finish, so it
That's
was,
amazing.
yeah, it was fun. It hurts, but it's fun. And just crossing the finish line and knowing like you had the ability to do the distance and you could run 50 miles, you can push your body for that far is a really cool thing to be able to say when it's all said and done. And then it just kind of lit a little bit of a fire under me, and like I got really more interested in the ultra distances and learning more about it and researching like who the top women were that year and like what other races are out there. So yeah, it was definitely another like turning point for me.
I want to take a moment to thank SOAR Running for their support. SOAR Running design and produce running apparel that does justice to the commitment and passion of runners globally. Encompassing textile innovation, pioneering design technology, sports science, and the real-world experiences of runners, their collections are designed specifically for running, for high-performance racing, and also for off-road adventure and endurance. And that's what I'm most excited about. Their trail line is specifically designed to be technical and durable for long adventures. It is high performance trail gear, blending innovative fabrics and detailing for off road resilience, function, and endurance. SOAR's innovation and ground up approach to product development results in a new way of thinking about trail running apparel. Check them out at soarrunning.com. That's SOAR running.com.
That was exactly going to be my next question was like you came into this race really training as like a low stress, like just do something different and not put a lot of intensity into it. When you cross the finish line, then does that immediately get the wheels turning of you did really well in this race, to be clear, but what could you do if you approached it in a different way? So coming out of that first race, what kinds of ideas were running through your head? What did you end up steering toward next?
Yeah, so I was curious because like not having done like any real workouts and like definitely needing the adjustments with nutrition and stuff. But I thought that maybe like if I could put some really good training in and do some workouts and keep up the like higher mileage, like my body actually handles it pretty well, like the double long runs. Um, if I could bring up the intensity, like what could I do for like, another race, whatever distance that may be. And then I had somebody kind of plug in the 50K, like the US 50K championships, into my brain. And like, it was, somebody who had like seen or been a part of it in the past. And then that kind of got the wheels turning a little bit. And so I signed up for Mad City, and, the 50K kind of like became the next goal. And, um, that distance I really like a lot, where it's almost like marathon training, but like just a little longer. And so you get still a little bit of like the speed workout and then the hard long threshold runs, and that distance then became kind of like the target, and ran I guess the Mad City race in 20. I guess that was 2024.
25.
I ran my first one in 2024, I think. So it wasn't the championship year, but it
Not when it was
was the
okay,
year
I gotcha.
before. Yeah. And so that was my first like real 50K. And again, I loved it. It was obviously it's Mad City, it's Nora Bird, the race director, and it's a fun place to be, and the course is great, and the support's great. So it went really well. And then I just kind of bopped around like I think I ran another marathon, and then it just kind of spiraled into then this idea of like, okay, well, JFK again, and then what? So then the 100K kind of came into play. Yeah.
Okay, so the 100K was already on your radar when you signed up and planned JFK in 2025.
It was.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like 20. Yeah. So the World 50K race, like that team, I didn't I didn't think I was going to be a part of it because I had not run at I DNF'd the US championship race. And then there were so many women running so fast. So I didn't even register that was like going to be a thing. So then I had signed up for JFK. And that was like the goal. That's like, I wanted to go back and I wanted to run fast and I wanted to really test the waters with pushing it on the trail and pushing it on the canal. But then I knew that the 100K, it was going to be the US championships then this past April, a couple weeks ago. And so then that was definitely on my mind before JFK, at least a little bit.
So that was an interesting question I had for you was coming back to a race for the second time. How did you approach your training differently the second time that you were training for JFK? And then, well, I'll ask more questions after that. Let me start
Sure.
with one question.
Yeah. So I think I tried to incorporate a little bit of speed work with it, but I really focused more on the double long runs and making, um, one of them really hard, like threshold session where I'm running, faster than race pace, or like good progression runs and really trying to make it hurt at the end of the run. And then the other day, I actually really tried to get on trail, which we don't have a lot of in Philadelphia, but there's enough. So then I was trying to, either do the trail on day one or day two and just have like tired legs for the weekend. And then transition, I added a little bit more mileage during the week, and tried to just continue running hard days, hard on tired legs, and then easy days, easy, slow miles. But doing workouts basically instead of just the mileage.
So talk about then how that played out for you on race day. I actually got to be on the live stream coverage team last year. But the coverage really stuck with the top 3 women and you were right there on the edge of it. And so visually didn't get to see much of your race. But walk us through how the day played out for you.
Yeah. So, it was really painful. It's probably the most painful run I've ever had. Um, I ran much faster on the trail than I thought I was going to, and I got like linked up with one of the guys that was running a pace that I thought I could hold, and he was like the most springy human ever. He just would keep bounding and like was trying to keep up, and then coming off the trail, I also, the first year I ran JFK, I just kept the same shoes on. I just ran in like basically trainers the whole time. And so I actually invested in a good trail shoe and then switched over at the 15-mile mark at the checkpoint to a carbon plate shoe and had those for the canal and then the road segment. And was kind of basically just holding on and trying to just keep the legs moving for the whole canal segment. One of my best friends, we've been best friends for forever. Like we've known each other since 6th grade. He was my crew and he's like a really perfect person for a day like that because he's definitely not somebody that was going to let me like stop at the checkpoints and, whine and complain. He was going to give me my things and then like kick me in the rear and keep me going. So that was helpful. But, it was like trying to do runner's math the whole time. Like, okay, so this many miles, and if I run this pace, what time is that? And I knew that I was going to run a big PR if I could finish. It was just what could I finish in, and how could I hold it together those last like 8-9 miles on the roads. And then I kind of got lucky there. I got linked up. There was a guy, and I could just kind of trail him. Except we were a little bit opposite where the uphills felt better for me and the downhills were really bad. And he was the opposite where it seemed like he slowed on the up and then sped up on the down. So we yo-yoed a little bit, but yeah, and then you get to like 3 to go and you're like, okay, I can do 3 more.
I know I'm going to make it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then coming down that final straightaway is just awesome. Like it was a huge relief ultimately to almost be done, but just like knowing that everything that you did to lead up to the race like paid off and it clicked and makes it all worth it for sure. So
Talk about maybe some of the feelings that you processed either like at the finish line on the day or even in the days that followed. You were fourth female overall in a very competitive women's field. We say this every year. It's not unique to JFK, it's the
Yeah, I
sport.
know.
That year by year, the women's field is getting faster. It's also getting deeper.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to notch a result like that for yourself in comparison to this strong women's field that you were with?
Yeah, I think like I mean, it's incredible how ultra marathoning has come, like the women's side of it, how far it's come and how fast people are running. And it's exciting to be a part of it. And I think like it didn't really register right away, like what my time meant. But then being able to kind of look back and see like, the previous race results and, that the JFK brochure, like they published the top times and they just update it every year. So it's fun to go back and I could go back pretty quickly and see like, I think it was like the 11th fastest women's time on the course. And like that, that was pretty awesome to like have that register. And, I think just I have known, I think, since like high school running, really, like I could have the potential to be like a good runner in terms of like a national level idea. But the ultra world was so different and so new that I didn't really know exactly like how good I could be. And having that time really, that is what kind of like springed or kind of really put a fire under my butt to see like, okay, if I could hop on a road and like even if it's 100K versus the 50K, like how fast can I run? And knowing a little bit more about the training and the nutrition and what works, like that was helpful. And shoes, like, can you wear carbon plate shoes for that long? Like what happens? So yeah, I think it's exciting and uh it's been a fun experience and it's something that I think I'm lucky to be able to do it like with my job and um they all support me in doing it and it's so yeah, it's been a fun road, it's been exciting and I think hopefully it'll just continue to build.
Yeah, a newfound level of confidence, it sounds like,
Yeah.
coming out of that JFK race, but then we've got one more that we're gonna get to here to stack on top of it. Um, it is an interesting transition because we're talking about 50 miles compared to 62 for 100K, but the time is not that different because of the way that the trail slows you down. So
Mhm,
it is
mhm.
longer on time. But not by a whole lot. Talk a little bit about how your recovery then went after JFK and how you transitioned that into 100K training.
Yeah. I took over 2 weeks off. I actually went to the Galapagos Islands with my friend that crewed me. So we had a really great vacation.
That's
Um,
amazing.
it was awesome. I didn't run at all. We were relatively active hiking and that kind of stuff, but it was mostly just resetting and recharging. Um, and I think then, like, coming back after that, I kinda putzed around and just was having fun with running again in December, until I really definitively decided, like, "Yeah, okay, the 100K is definitely the way to go." Um, so I recovered really well, like, I didn't have any injuries and everything felt great when I came back into it. I was feeling really strong and I was running some pretty fast workouts, like, early January. Getting back into the long runs was not hard, which was a little surprising. So, yeah, I think my body really recovered well, which I'm very thankful for. And then it
You
just
really
kind of,
gave it the room to recover
well,
well, though.
yeah,
I think give yourself some credit there.
yeah,
It wasn't just a surprise or a coincidence. You did that recovery well.
yeah. I'm a big proponent of taking time off after races, and always have been. So, it just I don't has worked for me, and again, it just kind of helps like recharge and kind of helps with the getting back into it, getting a little more ammunition. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So coming into the 100K, like we said, this is the USATF Road National Championship this year at Mad City. Talk a little bit about some of your thoughts and feelings, goals coming into race day. Did you have a good perspective of what you thought you were capable of, how that would match up against the field, and just kind of some of the feelings that went along with that?
Yeah. So I think I didn't really know who was going to be there. And so it was all along kind of just like, what time did I think I needed to run to maybe be, in top six to make a world's team? And going off of like previous races from the year before and the 100K champs the 2 years before. So I wasn't really sure what time I like would have to run. So I was ballparking anywhere from 7 to 7:15 pace, and that's kind of how I tailored like workouts and training. And I coming up closer to the race, like I had a little bit better idea of like who might be there and who wasn't going to be there. And I thought like there were a couple other girls I thought that were going to be there that ended up not. But the overall goal then like was to be top five to start. And then the more I got into training and the more workouts so like were clicking, I thought I could probably run pretty quick. So the ultimate goal was could I run 7-minute pace? And that was, in my opinion, coming into it, going to be a stretch. And it was going to have to be like a pretty perfect day. But that was kind of like goal A, and then goal B was like 7:10 to 7:15 pace. And then goal C was, have fun and finish it. And because who knows what 12 more miles is going to feel like after 50. Yeah. So, and then training wise, like we had a pretty rough winter here. So, it wasn't the most fun training all the time. And, treadmills were a thing, which I hate. And, I got lucky for the most part on weekends. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely was not a perfect training build. So I was coming into it a little more relaxed and kind of like, well, it is what it is. And, you run your race and start out comfortable, see how it feels. Don't go too hard, and, click off what you can. And um, yeah, and then race day rolled along, and it was like the most beautiful day. It was perfect weather, and I had Andrea and Allison at the start line, like knowing them, who they were, knowing of them, and what they have raced, and they've got such big backgrounds in the ultra world. And so they started out, and I just kind of hopped behind them and was kind of just tucked in. And yeah, and then they started chatting away, and I was like, I don't really have much to contribute because I don't know much about the ultra world. But yeah, and then it just kind of, we just kind of started rolling, and it was a really good day. Yeah.
Okay, that's a really brief summary of a
Yeah.
big day. I really want to hear the
Yeah.
details of it. So explain for those who are not familiar what the course looks like. You're not running point to point or even really big loops. You're running a lot of small loops. What does the course setup look like?
So it's a 10K loop, and it's in an arboretum in Madison, Wisconsin. It's beautiful. It's mostly like a paved road, and then occasionally you have to hop on a sidewalk, depending on the where you are in the course. But it's very quiet. It's pretty. The course support is great. And then for obviously the 100K, it's 10 laps. So each lap, at the end of the lap, you have like your aid stations and your zone and your crew. So you can loop around and see people very frequently, which was, I thought, helpful. Um, but yeah, and then like the race director, Nora Bird, is incredible, and she does a really great job at making sure everything runs the most smooth. And yeah, and again, we just had like a beautiful day. You never know what weather could be like in Madison at the beginning of April.
Right.
But yeah, it was like 30s to start in the morning, and warmed up to like 50s, and hardly any wind, and a good bit of cloud coverage the second half, which was really helpful, I think. Yeah, so it's a
What does
nice course.
the course support look like in a national championship? Like you have your crew and you have aid stations. How much personal access do you have for support? And you personally, how much were you using that? And how much were you carrying with you out on each lap?
So
instead?
they have like a designated zone that I guess is like a specific amount of space for the crews for everyone. And that's where you are able to switch whatever you want or grab whatever you want from your own crew. But that's the only place that we were allowed to exchange with somebody on your crew. At the other side, so about like halfway around the loop, there is a manned aid station, but they're course volunteers. And then there is a table where if you wanted a bottle or nutrition, you could have it there available to grab on your own. But then the regular aid that is available to all racers is there at the same time. And then
Okay.
other than that, that's it. Like you aren't allowed to exchange anywhere else. There aren't any other aid stations throughout the rest of the course. And so for me, I like to carry a bottle, like a handheld, and then I take gels and fluids, and so I was exchanging a bottle that had gels in it every 2 laps.
Every 2 laps. Okay, so you're going 20K between needing to refuel because you were carrying it with you. I
Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. So, talk a little bit about your pacing strategy. I don't know if I was reading this correctly, but if I was, on the results page, it had a loop by loop split, and your average pace for every single loop was just dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. It from that results page looked like you consistently negative split every loop from start to finish. Is that correct?
I don't know, because it definitely didn't feel that way. um,
Okay.
there's a
Talk
strong
about your
chance.
strategy
Yeah.
just in case the results weren't correct, but what I saw was amazing on paper.
Well, thank you. I again, I wanted to start out a little conservative because I was like, I don't know what 100K feels like. So,
Yeah.
um, I went out with Allison and Andrea, and I think we were clicking off some good laps, good miles, and probably around like the 7:10 to 7:15 pace. Um, and it was conversational. It was great. Like it was really nice to have them there. And so again, we kind of just like tucked in together and chatted for a lot of it. Alice and I kind of kept going after 20K, and we had some miles together that were really great and laughs, and it was fun. She's
She mentioned
an
that.
incredible
Yeah.
human, and so easy to talk to. She's hilarious. So that was really, really, really great. And so like 50K flew by. Like it felt great and comfortable, and that's kind of like I wanted to kind of tuck in and make sure that that was how it went to start. And
Were you
then
both together all the way through 50K?
through 50K,
Okay.
yeah. And then like that 40 to 50K, I started to kind of really pay attention to like my watch, and we had dropped a couple like quicker mile. We would get talking about like hot topics, and then like the pace would creep up. And then like when I started to pay attention to like my overall time, I had like marked out like at 50K like what, you know, 7:10 pace was, what 7:15 pace was. And so I had an idea of like where I would be in terms of the course record. And that was a little bit on my radar. I didn't know if it was like feasible or not. So when I realized that we were definitely like on pace to hit it and I was feeling really good, I kind of just took off. I not like took off, but I just naturally kind of sped up going into that like 50 to 60K loop. And things still just felt great. Like I felt really comfortable running a little bit faster, and um, it I just was, I think, one of those days that everything lined up perfectly, and the nutrition was going well, and I think that those couple of laps, the next laps definitely maybe were negative splits, but then 20K to go, like started to not feel very good, so I think I did
Okay.
slow down then, because I kept also then trying to like runner's math, like okay, if I run, you know, this pace for the next 20K, like what does that mean? And like what time? And so then it was just like a little bit of desperation of keeping the legs moving at a certain pace and trying to hold on and not let the wheels fall off. Which ended up it was good. And you know, you get into that last lap and you're like, okay, 6 more. I can do 6 more. So yeah.
So from 50K onward, in addition to doing runner's math, you're now mostly running by yourself. You lost the buddy that you
I
started
know.
with for the first half. For those who aren't familiar, there's no headphones in a race like this. What kind of things are you telling yourself along the way or talking to yourself about? Or are you really just doing math and trying to tune out the rest of it?
Not the whole way, yeah. Um, I always for races, really I carry people with me. And so I really try to split up time like miles or whatever Ks into thinking about other people and um, good memories. And I know people are out there really supporting me. And so it's a way to distract myself, but also just to remember like why I'm doing it and who's out there who support me and um, just to give, positivity and a little bit of light for the end of the tunnel. So that really helps me every race that I run.
I love
Um,
that.
I had my parents there for my crew, so my mom and my stepdad were there, and they have not seen me run in a while. So that was awesome. And I knew that, I would see them every lap. So having them like was fun and like seeing their smiles and having them cheering, like that was, another bright light. And then it's going to hurt, it's going to get hard. And so then it's just kind of remembering all the workouts that you did and all the effort you put into the training cycle and the build and trying to soak up all of the confidence out of that as much as possible. Yeah, and then again, just kind of keeping the legs moving one step at a time.
Simple.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so coming to the end of the day, or not even the end of the day, end of the race, it's probably still early in the day. You were the women's champion, new course record holder, and as we said at the beginning of the podcast, earned your spot onto the 100K World Championship team alongside Allison Mercer, who was second at the same race. Um, Talk about the post-race reflections and we talked about kind of earning this step of confidence coming out of JFK and seeing how you stacked up against a competitive field. Here's another one that you are really showing up and making a statement in a competitive field in a competitive distance. What did that feel like post-race and what kind of learnings and things did you absorb from it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's an emotional roller coaster. Like you cross the finish line, and then it's like, I, my parents are there, and it's like, you get emotional with them, and like, part of it is you do it for them, and then the race director Nora Bird, who's an incredible human being, is like wrapping you up in her arms and like holding you upright and pumping you up, and then Lynn from the USATF team coaching team staff. She was there at the finish and she's pumped and like there's all this excitement and then you'd like turn over and then there's this other person. It's like, okay, well you have to go to drug testing now. And I was like, like, okay. And so then I don't know, you do all of that. It's like a whirlwind. But it was again like one of those like JFK at the end of that race. I just felt like this huge sense of like relief, but then gratitude, most joy, and just knowing that, again, all the time and the effort you put into the training is worth it. And I've always wanted to wear a USA jersey, like since high school. It's like that's been a goal of mine, and knowing that, like I stamped my ticket to Spain is incredible, and that was definitely a goal. And the time, it took a minute for, again, the time to kind of sink in. But I'm so thrilled like that I can run that fast and that like my body can handle it. And again, just, could I run faster? Like, okay, so I've done it once now. If I run it again, the distance, like how would I tweak training and can I run faster? Can I change that or this? And, it's exciting and motivating, yeah, and another big confidence booster for sure.
Yeah, I'll let you hold on to what you feel like you could improve in training for yourself. But what on race day, if you were to run the race again, sort of as you will in Spain, it's a different format, a different
Yeah.
environment for sure. But was there anything on the day that you feel like you would have done differently or raced differently?
Um, I think honestly, like there were definitely times where like when Alice and I were running and we would get chatting and I would get super distracted and I forget about fueling. So I definitely like took a gel late a couple of times. um, so I mean maybe honing in a little bit on that, but I think ultimately like I feel like anytime you run like a PR. You're like, okay, well, if I started a little faster, or if like I
Right.
ran a little faster, like could I have done that, or could I hang on? So I do think to a degree I probably could run a little faster, starting a little faster, but I just don't. I don't know the threshold yet, where the breaking point is. So, but otherwise, I think I had a really just kind of perfect day, like perfect scenario, perfect day, perfect setup, perfect crew. And everything just clicked and it was fun. And I think that I try to hold on to that too, that this is for fun as well. And it's not worth it if it's not enjoyable. So yeah, I definitely I wouldn't change a whole lot.
I love that.
Yeah.
For the gearheads out there, what shoes do you wear to run 100 Ks on the road?
I ran the Brooks Hyperion Elite.
Okay. Would you run
Yeah.
in those again
I
in the
would.
fall?
They really wrecked my toes, but I'm not sure if that's just because it was
Right.
100K.
Right. That's the
Yeah.
big question mark.
Yeah.
Let me back up a little bit, maybe just for my own interest. What did you wear on the canal section at JFK?
The same.
The
Yeah.
same.
Different pair, but
Okay.
same style. Yeah. Same brand.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So World Championships is coming up in Spain. You've got some time. That's not until September. What is on your radar between now and then?
I don't have a whole lot on the radar in terms of racing. I actually don't really race much year to year. So I have toyed around with the idea of maybe trying to run another marathon, but not before Spain. Um, I would like to maybe run a 5K because I think I haven't broken 18 in a 5K because I've never really run one competitively, so that might be fun.
I love
Um,
this.
yeah.
Okay.
And then another not really secret goal, but another goal would be there's like the fastest known time for the city perimeter of Philadelphia, which is, I think it's like 70-ish miles or something. Um,
Okay.
that's maybe also on the bucket list, but I don't know if
And
I'm going
is
to do
that
that.
road, sidewalk, gravel, grass? What does it look like?
I think it's mostly road sidewalk, a little gravel. I don't think really much grass or like trail. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was another like friend plugs it in the ear kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, and you have to have that question too of like, okay, know I can run 62 miles at this
yeah.
pace and do this well. What can I, add a
Yeah.
few more miles on there? That's an
Yeah.
interesting project. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
But
right.
yeah, other than that, nothing really specific.
I want to bring us to a close. I don't want to bring us to a close, but it's time to bring us to a close. I'm going to bring us to the last question that I ask everyone who comes on the podcast, and that is, if you could go back and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, so many things.
Yeah, it's a hard
So
question.
many things. I think ultimately, I think probably the biggest thing is like perfection is like a thief of joy.
Mm,
And there in life, but in running, I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in like the need to have this go a certain way and the schedule to be this way and there's no room for error and I think like with collegiate running it's so easy to get wrapped up in the like perfectionism of running and most of us have a bit of type A in us and it's hard to roll with bumps and when things don't go exactly like we plan. Where for me, it was the mental side of running is what ultimately brought me to like, my mini downfalls. And if I had a little less invested in the perfection of the process, I think my collegiate career definitely would have been different. And then, going into road racing and ultramarathoning. I think the start of it all probably would have been different, but yeah, you live and you learn, and you find it out eventually. So
You
yeah.
do find it out eventually, and it
Yeah.
really sounds like that's the approach that you're taking with your training and being willing to start even when you know the training hasn't been perfect and being willing to be curious when you're in the race and let it unfold for you. I
Yeah.
I love hearing that and bringing the joy into
Yeah.
that, keeping
Yeah.
that as a big part of the goal. I
Definitely.
love it.
Yeah.
Sarah, I really enjoyed getting to know you and appreciate you coming on to share a bit of your story and a bit of where you are coming from as you head into World Championships this fall. We'll be really excited to watch you, watch the whole team, and cheer you on over there. And in the meantime, along the way to getting there.
Yeah. Well, thank you again so much for having me and for guiding me through my first podcast.
It was a privilege.
Yeah, it was really, really great to chat with you for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Likewise.